one day or a couple days, I wanted to make a post on Instagram like, dang, how could I put all this into like a small thing to type, or maybe I should take a picture or something like that. But it's so much to unpack in this story that I'm about to get into that I didn't want to post something on Instagram and people just, oh, that's too much to read and swipe through or just ignore it or whatever, because I feel like there is some people that need to hear this. The audience I'm trying to reach with this video is going to be people who are just, they feel like they're not where they want to be right now, or they're not getting there fast enough to the destination that they have planned, or they're not meeting their own expectations for themselves right now. And sometimes you're waiting on things to happen, or you're praying to God, like, take me out of this, take me out of this. And God already did his part, and he's waiting on you to do your part. You got to move. All right, so I'm going to get into this. I'm going to start by just reading the beginning of the story, and then I'll get into all the things that we need to break down and the metaphors and the stuff that the Bible's really trying to say to us in this story. So the Lord came to Jonah and said, "Go to the great city of Nineveh and preach against it, because its wickedness has come up before me." But Jonah ran away from the Lord and headed to Tarshish. He went down to Joppa, where he found a ship bound for that port. After paying the fare, he went aboard and sailed to Tarshish to flee from the Lord. Then the Lord sent a great wind on the sea, and such a violent storm arose that the ship threatened to break up. All the sailors were afraid, and each cried out to their own God. And they threw the cargo into the sea to lighten the ship. All their precious valuables, everything they brought to go wherever they were going, they threw it off to lighten the ship, because they thought that was the problem. But Jonah had gone below the deck, where he lay down and fell into a deep sleep. So Jonah's knocked. He has no idea. None of this is going on. The captain went to him and said, "How can you sleep? Get up and call on your God. Maybe he will take notice of us, so that we will not perish." He answered, "I am a Hebrew, and I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land." And this obviously scared all of them, because they know he's running away from the Lord. So they're like, "What did you do? And what could we do to make the sea calm down for us?" Jonah said, "Pick me up and throw me into the sea, and it will become calm. I know that it is my fault that this great storm has come upon you." I'm going to get into that later. Instead, the men did their best to row back to the land, but they could not, for the sea grew even wilder than before. Then they took Jonah and threw him overboard into the raging sea, and it grew calm. Before they threw him overboard, they cried to the Lord and said, "Don't let us die for taking this man's life. Don't hold us accountable," and all that stuff, because obviously they were scared. They know who God is, and they don't want to get retaliated against. Now the Lord provided a huge fish to swallow Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. From inside the fish, Jonah prayed to the Lord his God. So now Jonah wants to pray. Now Jonah wants to talk to God and hear what he has to say after he just ran away and tried to do everything on his own. Isn't that what we do, though? Don't we go do our own thing? You ever found yourself saying, I'm gonna just do this, and if it doesn't work out, I'm gonna deal with the consequences later. And then when you're dealing with the consequences later, you're like, I probably shouldn't have even done this, because that's what's gonna happen, man. I'm real enough to say I multiple times did my own thing. I knew this is probably not something God would do, probably not what God has planned for me, but I'm gonna just deal with that later. And then when I was dealing with it later, I was like, I don't want to deal with this. So let me get back to the word. So the beginning of this passage said, when Jonah ran away from the Lord, he headed to Tarshish. He went down to Joppa. In the Bible, there's so many metaphors and so many things that it says that we need to really pay attention to. Jonah ran away from the Lord. He went down. Because if you run away from the Lord, if you run away from God's plan for you and you go do your own thing, that's the only direction you're going. You're going down. Regardless of where you go, you're going down. He went down to Joppa. And then it says, after paying the fare, he went and sailed to flee from the Lord. The Bible wouldn't have emphasized after paying the fare. So Jonah went away from the Lord. First, he went down, and then he paid for it, because that's what's going to happen. When you deviate from where God has for you and his purpose for you, and you decide to go do your own thing that you know you shouldn't be doing, or you just think you're going to just deal with the consequences later, you're going to pay for it. That's what the word is saying right there. And so Jonah is down there slumped. He's snoring. There's a whole storm going on, all this chaos, people throwing their stuff off the boat, calling out to their gods. And they come down there and Jonah is chilling. Because when you're making decisions for yourself that you know aren't the right way, and you're going your own way and doing your own things, you don't realize the people you're affecting around you. His decisions are affecting everybody in that boat, and he's down there slumped, not worried about any of it. That says so much. And then he said, this is what I said earlier. I'm going to get back to this. They said, what should we do to make the sea calm down? He said, pick me up and throw me into the sea, and it will become calm. Jonah is a grown man. If you know that you need to be in the sea for this storm to stop, go jump into the sea. If I'm one of these people, one of these sailors, I'm like, throw you into the sea. If you don't, you know what I'm saying? So Jonah's waiting on everybody else to do something, waiting on them to throw him into the sea, or waiting on God to change his mind. God's not going to change what he says. Waiting on God to change his mind, waiting for them to throw him into the sea. Meanwhile, he's chilling, not even worried about all the lives that he's affecting right now. And in our lives, sometimes that's us. Sometimes we're just going with the flow, and if we feel like it's comfortable and we feel like it's where we should be going or what we should be doing with no standards and no morals, we don't even realize the people we're affecting around us, the pain we might be causing the people that love us. You got to take that into consideration. So now that you guys know the story, that when he got thrown overboard, and everybody thought they were going to throw him overboard to kill him. Everybody thought God wanted vengeance. God wanted to punish him. But isn't it true that sometimes what we think is punishment is protection from God? There was a whale waiting right where he hit the water to swallow him. And that whale took him to where he was supposed to go in the first place. Where God told him to go in the first place, that whale took him there in 3 days. That boat wouldn't have got him wherever he was going in Lord knows how many days. So how much time did he waste going down to Tarshish, paying a fare to get on the boat, going and taking a nap on the boat, and waiting for people to throw him overboard when he could have just done the right thing in the first place? How many of us are laying down there below the boat, and we're just on this boat not knowing where we're going, but we're here because we feel like it's comfortable and we could sleep here and we don't care what's going on around us or who's getting hurt around us, or even for our destiny. We have a destiny. We have a purpose on this earth. And God's destiny for us, that's his preferred destination. He's not just going to give that to us on a silver platter. That requires our participation. So if you're in a situation and you're waiting on other people to push you out or throw you overboard or get you out of this situation, you're praying, God, get me out of this situation. You need to realize that the same thing you're waiting for somebody to do for you, you can do for yourself. God has given you the ability to do for yourself. Fend for yourself. He could have jumped off the boat. If he would have, granted he got on the boat in the first place, but if he would have just jumped off the boat, when he knew that that's what he needed to do, instead of waiting for people to throw him off and waiting for other people to do all this other stuff, how much faster would he have got to his destination in the whale than waiting in that boat and sleeping and whatever he was doing? How much faster would you get to where you want to be if you took matters into your own hands and just said, God, what do you want me to do? Where do you want me to go? And took that route. Stop waiting for people to come in your life, or people that are already in your life, to push you or do something to get you where you want to be. God has a plan for you. Follow that. If you're going your own way, you're going further and further away from his plan. You're going to have to come back eventually. Or even worse, you're going to die in that storm. And you're never going to reach God's purpose. In the graveyard, there's so much unfulfilled purpose. People leaving this earth without fulfilling their purpose. And then the next generation is left with purpose that they have to fulfill from the people that didn't fill their purpose, and they still have their own purpose to fill. So now this generation has their own purpose that they need to reach, and they have to make up for the people that are in the graveyard that went their own way and didn't fulfill their purpose on earth. Don't be that person. Another verse that needs to get broke down. Instead, the men did their best to row back to land, but they could not, for the sea grew even wilder than before. Because when you do your own thing, when you're like, he just told you, throw me into the ocean and God will stop the storm. And they said, I'm going to try to row you back. When you try to do it your own way, it gets worse. The sea grew even wilder than before. It gets worse. Man. So if you're in a situation right now where you feel like, dang, like I feel like I'm just not getting anywhere. I know where I want to be, but I feel like I'm not making progress. I'm stagnant. I'm waiting for something to happen supernaturally. You gotta go, man. It's never gonna be the right time. It's never gonna be the perfect time. You're never gonna feel like you're in the perfect place. And even whatever your goals are right now, and I've learned this by experience, whatever your goals are right now, where you think, oh, if I get here, then I'll be satisfied. I'll be happy. If I make this amount of money, then I'll be satisfied. I'll be happy. But there is never there. When I say there is never there, I mean, you're never going to be satisfied with where you think you're going to be satisfied in this season right now. When you get to that season, you're not going to be satisfied. You're still going to be trying to get to a next season. There's so many testaments to this. A lot of millionaires, God bless their soul, either suicidal or kill themselves. I'm sure one day before they were millionaires, they said, if only I had $1 million, all my problems will go away. I'll be good. I'll be satisfied. The money didn't do it, and the money's not going to do it. You get $1 million, say even 6 figures. A lot of people my age, I hear like, oh, I just want to make 6 figures. I want to make 6 figures. When you hit that 100,000, you're gonna be like, okay, like I make 100,000, but I'm at the bottom of the 6 figures. I want 500,000. You get that 500,000. Now you're at the bottom of the mid 6 figures. Now you want $1 million. And every time you graduate to a higher level, you're graduating to the bottom of that level. Now all you're going to want to do is get to the top and get to the next level. When you get to that level, you're going to be at the bottom of that level. When you hit 100 million, you're going to want $1 billion. I'm sure Dr. Dre right now has $1 billion. He's plotting on getting $1 trillion. And it's never going to stop. Prime example of that is just life. We've all been, we were in middle school. We were 6th, 7th grade, like, dang, 8th grade, I'm almost there. Boom, graduated 8th grade. You graduated to the bottom of the next level. You graduated to high school. Now you're a freshman in high school. And you're a sophomore, like I'm halfway there. You're a junior, 1 more year. All of a sudden you're a senior. You're at the top of high school. And you're like, yeah, I'm about to make it. You graduate into the bottom of either college or the real world. You're never going to be satisfied. You're always going to have to keep going, keep going. And when you understand that, and you have to find a place in yourself, in your soul, where you're satisfied with yourself. You can't be worried about what all these other people have, what Instagram says. Somebody's further than everybody. The people that are like, dang, why is he so much further than me? Somebody is much further than them, and they're wondering the same thing. There's nobody that's just at the top of everything. And once you grasp that, you'll be able to admire without desiring. Shout out Dharius Daniels. That's where I got that from. Admire without the desire. You could look at somebody and be like, oh, wow, I admire what God's doing for them. I admire where they're at, but I don't want that. I don't want what's for them. I want what's for me. I want what God has for me. And that's what I'm going to follow. And that's how you stay satisfied with what you have without worrying about what everybody else has. So there is never really there. So find something that stays solid through everything. This book right here, the Bible, has never changed. All the years that it's been here, which is forever, has never changed. And it still applies to everyday life today. That's something that's solid. That's a solid foundation. Money comes and goes. Markets come and go. Jobs hire and fire. Those things aren't going to stay solid. This word will stay solid. The whale was right there when he hit the water. The whale was right there when he hit the water to take him to his destination faster than his own plan. And he was out here paying to get on that boat, going out of his way to get on that boat, and then not doing what he needed to do to stop the boat from almost breaking. He could have died in that boat. He could have died getting thrown into the ocean. But sometimes we think the whale is an ocean. Sometimes we think the protection is punishment. We think we're getting thrown into the ocean to die, and God provided a whale to take him where he needed to go. And then he wanted to pray to God. I'm not even going to get into that. It's a whole prayer, maybe another video, but a whole 2 pages of prayer. And then eventually he got to Nineveh and fulfilled his mission anyways. You could have been done this. And the story doesn't stop there. There's definitely more to pack at the end of the story that I might do another video on, but there's God has a way for you to get there on his time, and his time is going to be better than anything you have planned for yourself. His timing is better than anything you have planned for yourself. I promise you that. So, man, jump out. If you're in a boat right now, it's stagnant, there's a storm, jump out. Some storms are from the enemy. Some storms are sent from God. God will send storms to rebuild what you are destroying. God doesn't destroy things to destroy it and leave it at that. God sends storms to destroy, to rebuild. There's no demolition without renovation with God. If something is going down in your life right now, that's because something better is coming up. If you just trust and have faith that that's going to happen. If you are like, oh, the enemy, the devil's always against me, the devil will send a storm as well. But the devil sends a storm when you're on your way somewhere and he's afraid you're going to get there. You're doing everything right. You're doing everything to get there. He'll send a storm to make you turn around. You have to get through that. You have to be able to decipher whether it's an enemy storm or it's God's storm. The enemy storm, he's just trying to get you to turn around so you don't make it to where you're going. You survive that storm, you're going to get there. God's storms, that means something you're doing is not right. Something you're doing needs to be rebuilt, needs to be touched on, needs to be understood. And get through these storms and be able to decipher what the storm is.